So today we're going to quickly look at how to create a simple writeback cube and use Excel 2010 to write back to it. So here I am in Visual Studio. Create a new cube project. So File, New Project. Choose Analysis Services Project. Type and then type the name of my project. And then press OK. First thing that I want to do is create a new data source. So new data source, go through the wizard, press new, type my server name, choose the correct database. I'm using the AdventureWorks data warehouse from the 2008 R2 samples. Press OK and then finish. So now I have a new data source. The next thing to do is to create a new data source view. So next, choose my data source, specify that I would like to use the fact sales quota table. Press OK. I also want to add the related tables. In this case, it's the employee and the date table that are related. Press OK. I would like to add a column to my employee table that contains the full name of the employee. So I name it full name. And the expression is the first name concatenated with a space and then concatenated with the last name, like that. Okay. Next step would be to create the dimensions. So click on dimensions, new dimension, specify next. I would like to use an existing table. In my case, it's the employee table. Here I specify that the name column will be my full name that I created, and then press next. And I would like to have both the individual employee and the parent employee. So I just rename those. Press next and specify that my dimension should be named employee. Okay, so let's check the properties of my dimension. So here you can see I've had the full name as the name column, and the same needs to be done with the hierarchy as well. So specify that the full name should be my name column. So now we have finished the first dimension. So let's create the other one. So new dimension, next, existing table, and the date. Specify that the full alternate date key should be used as the name, and I specify that I would like to have the date, but I would also like to have the calendar year and month number of year. I will rename the month number of year to month, and I call that the date. So now we have three attributes. I would change the month to instead have the month name as the name column, and I would also like to add as my key column to have the year as well. So now we will have a dimension. We'll also create a small hierarchy. So I will have calendar year and month, like that. Now I have two dimensions. The next step would be to create a cube. So right click, new cube, next, use the existing tables. My measure group table is the fact sales quota, and I specify that I would like to have just the sales amount quota as the measure. So next, and I want to use the dimensions that I previously created. So next, and finish. Now I have my cube. What I now want to do is I want to define a writeback partition. So I click on the partitions tab and I right click on my fact sales quota partition and I choose writeback settings. Here I define my writeback table and that it will be using the same data source that I built my cube against, and I just press OK. So what we have done now is created a simple cube with 2 dimensions. Now I need to process it. Before processing it, I need to specify my impersonation. I would like to use the service account in this case, since that has the user rights to perform the writeback. So I press OK. Now I press process and I click yes on the warning and choose to run and process my cube. Now, as you can see, it processed successfully. Now it's time to switch to Excel 2010. So here I am in Excel 2010 and I have an empty workbook. So what I need to do is connect to my cube. So I press the Data tab and I choose from other sources and specify that I would like to connect to Analysis Services. So connect to Analysis Services, type my server name and specify my database and my cube. So next and finish. Click yes on the warning and create a new pivot table. So as you can see in the pivot table field list, I have my small cube. So I drag down the sales amount quota, my employee, and I put my date hierarchy on the columns. So as you can see, I have a simple pivot table. Now, in order for me to use writeback, I must enable writeback on this pivot table. So on the what if analysis button, I press it and I enable what if analysis. So now that I've done that, I can actually write back to this pivot table. So I type in some numbers and now my pivot table has been changed. The data has not been written to the database. In order to write it to the database, I press Publish Changes. Now the data has been written to the writeback table. If we go into Management Studio, we can actually look at the information. So I will execute my query. Now as you can see, we have a lot of entries. The reason for that is that I wrote on a top level. So we will break down the written data to each individual person and date. If I want to control how that is done, I can go into what if analysis, specify settings, and then specify the allocation method that we would like to use. So this is how you can build a simple writeback solution using Excel 2010 against Analysis Services.